So let's now understand the application of the concept that we have learned in Python. Now here I have basically loaded the data which is student marks. Now this particular data comes with a number of courses that the student has taken, the time the student has invested in learning or reading these courses, and the marks that the student obtained. Let's try to find out the correlation first. So we will first try to understand the application of correlation and covariance, and then we will learn about mean, median, and mode, and your measures of dispersion. So I'll just simply say df dot cor, and this will simply generate the covariance matrix. Now here you can see that this is a covariance matrix. Again, understand one thing: when the correlation value between two numerical features are positive, that basically mean as you increase x, the y will also increase, plus the value, the magnitude of that value will help you to understand the strength between them. So right now this value is something which is really important because it is positive. Second thing is it is 0.94. So on a scale of 0 to 1, the value is close to 1.94. That means as you increase the time study, as the student invest more time on learning that subject, the marks will always increase. The marks will always increase, and the association is 94%. Let's try to understand this by plotting basically your scatter plot. So I can import matplot dot matplotlib dot pyplot as plt, and then simply I say plt dot scatter plot between I want the time underscore study, and then I want the marks, and let's plot it. So here you can see the plot. You can see that this is really linear. As you increase x, y will also increase. That's the reason this value is positive. But now if I try to find out the covariance, so let's find out the covariance. So I'll just copy time study and comma the marks dot cov. The covariance between time study and the marks is 32. So time study and marks, the covariance is 32. Now it is positive, but it is 32. Again, something which we cannot interpret, right? What is the meaning of 32? It does not make any sense because this is unit property. When I say unit property, I mean this value is dependent on a unit, while this value is unitless. And that is the reason we love, or maybe we enjoy interpreting the correlation rather than covariance. Okay. Now I have another data also with me, which is a student performance data. So I'll just copy the path of this data. So copy path, and then let me load that data. df is equal to pd dot read underscore csv and df dot head. So this is my data. Now here we have math score, reading score, writing score. Let's try to find out three important measures: mean, median, and the third one is your standard deviation, to better understand how the performance were in these three subjects. So df, I would write math space score and dot mean. So mean is 66, and then df math score, then I want median, and then I will use standard deviation. So std ev standard deviation, std I think, yes. So for math, the mean and the median is very close to each other. That basically means there are no outliers. Number second is standard deviation is 15. Now let's also understand what is the minimum and maximum of math score. So df math score dot min. Min is 0 and max is 100. So since the range is 0 to 100, this 15 basically mean that most of the student would have scored between 66 minus 15, comma 66 plus 15. This is the range, which is 51 to 81. Maximum student scored. So the scatterness or the dispersion of the math score is only 15 units. Let's do the same thing for what was the another subject? Reading score. So now I'll make it more printable. So print mean. I'm just making it more printable so that we do not have to write it again and again. Median. And I will copy this. And the third one is standard deviation. And I will copy this also over here. Okay, now let's run it for math first of all. So mean, median, mode. I will copy this and run it for reading score. So I'll just can change this to reading, reading, reading. Now here, you can see that there is a slight difference between mean and median. And mean is little bit on the lower side. So that basically means there are little bit more people who scored on the lower scale in the reading. Also, the standard deviation is again 14, which is very similar to the performance in math. That's great. Let's focus on writing score. So IIT writing, writing, and here also writing. Now, writing also shows the same performance, but the score is little on the higher side. So here it was 66, here it was 69 or 70, here it is 68 to 69, and standard deviation is again 15. So you can see that the performance of the students in all these three subjects are actually the same because their mean is same, mean is little different, 66, 69, 68, so little bit different, but standard deviation is almost the same, 15.16, 50, 14.6 and 15. So that basically mean the performance of the students in all these three subjects is approximately the same. There is no major difference. So that's how we can leverage the concepts of measures of central tendency and measures of dispersion. And this is really useful. Right now, we are just talking about some dummy data, very small data. But when we look into the larger data, the data which comes with so many columns and so many rows, then these concepts actually play a major role. These concepts actually helps a lot. So I would suggest all of you to use this platform. You have online compiler of Jupyter Notebook available. Just download any data from Kaggle or maybe from UCI and try to play with it. Try to use the measures of central tendency and measures of dispersion to understand it, to create a story out of it. And that will actually help you to revise these concepts and learn these concepts. So that was for this particular module. Let's meet in the next module. Hello everyone, welcome to this particular video. Now in this particular video, I'll teach you about a very important concept known as IQR, which is interquartile range. So let me share my screen now. So let's start with IQR, interquartile range. Okay, now what that means? Now, to understand this, we will take, first of all, we need to understand box plot. Now, a box plot is basically a way to represent the distribution of the data. For example, let's say I have the data of various employees, so employee ID, and their income. Now, what kind of distribution I can expect in this kind of data? We have already talked about it. It will be a skewed distribution like this, right? Which basically means, so if I consider this x-axis to be income, this means that in the lower side, which is this range, so here, which is the lower income, we have more people earning low, right? And then if you look at this tail, this represents, so this represents, we have very few people earning higher income, right? Now, if I want to represent the same information in a box plot, it will look like this. So let me first of all plot it. So this is a box plot of the representation of the distribution that you can see, which is basically this distribution. So here, this is known as a box plot. Now consider box plot as a, well, let me show you, I have something. This is basically the jawline maker, but this is a very convenient way of explaining box plot. So I hope everyone can see. Right now we have a string and I have a box in between. Now this box represents 50% of your data. So let's say I have more data on the lower side. So what happens? My box will shift towards the lower side,
right? Now let's say I have more data on the higher side, so my box will shift to the higher side. If my data is balanced, which basically means most of the data is in the center while few in lower and few in higher, my box will be in the center. So this is what a box plot represents. It represents the concentration of the data at a particular end, whether it is low, whether it is high, or whether it is center, right? So I'll keep it over here. Now this means, or this box represents that 50% of the data is concentrated on the lower income bracket. Now this tail represents the extension of the box plot, whereas this represents outliers. Now let's understand a balanced box plot to understand IQR. So how a balanced box plot will look like? So this is the balanced box plot. In the balanced box plot, you will find out this middle line. Now this middle line represents median. Median means below this point, I will find 50% data. Above this point, I'll find 50% of the data. Now, these are your outliers. So these are your higher outliers, and these are your lower outliers. Now, this point represents 25th percentile. This represents 50th percentile, and this represents 75th percentile. So we call this as Q1, Q2, and Q3. And why it is known as interquartile? Because quartile means quarter means 4. So you can see that the entire data is divided into 4 buckets. 1 bucket, 2 bucket, second bucket, third bucket, and fourth bucket. So let's call this as A, B, C, and D. So quartile means quarter, or quarter means 1 by 4. So you can see that the entire data is divided into 4 parts with Q1, Q2, Q3. So Q1 represents the point in your data below which 25% of the data will lie or will be found. Q2 represents point in your data below which we can find 50% and above which we can find 50% data, and 75 Q3. So point in your data below which 75% of the data will lie, and above that 25% of the data. Now let me try it again. So here we have the box plot. This is my balanced condition. Remember, this is balanced, means the data is normally distributed. So if I draw the normal distribution around this, it will look like this. So this is your normal distribution. Now this length is known as IQR. So IQR is given as Q3 minus Q1. So this is your Q3, this is your Q1. And according to the normal distribution rule, this point over here is Q3. So you can reach to this point Q3 plus 1.5 times of IQR. And you can reach to this point by Q1 minus 1.5 times of IQR. So you guys must ask me why 1.5. Now this is again tried, tested, and researched value. I am not saying it by myself. It is done based on some research done on normal distribution. So these are some standard rules. Now this will only apply, note, if your data is normally distributed. Otherwise these rules will be approximately applied. Okay. Now, what is the advantage of this rule? The advantage is, number one, the rule states that any value which is below, or I should write it in terms of a rule. So if the value V is less than Q1 minus 1.5 times of IQR, or if the value is greater than Q3 plus 1.5 times of IQR. These are considered to be outliers. So any value which is beyond this and below this is your outlier. So IQR method, first of all, can help you to find out the concentration of the data, where your data is concentrated. Is it on the lower or on the higher, or it is centered around the mean? Also, IQR method can help you to find out the presence of outliers and weightage of outlier. How many outliers are there? So let's try to implement this and let's try to check if this method can actually help me to find out outliers. Now here we have some data. Let's copy this. So import pandas as pd, df is equal to pd dot read underscore csv. So df dot head. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to plot income. So I'll import pandas as pd, import matplotlib dot pyplot as plt, import cbon as sns, and I'll say sns dot boxplot x is equal to df income. Let's plot it. And here you can see that right now the data is towards the lower side, right? As we have discussed it in over here also, right? So the data is, the box you can see is on the lower side, and you can see outliers on the higher side. Let's try to find these outliers. So I'll find out Q1. Because I want to find out higher outliers, I'll find Q3. So Q3 is equal to df income dot quartile, and I will say 0.75. Let me show you without this. Okay, let me explain the error. Maybe I'm using a wrong spelling. It will help me to find out the error. Quartile df income. So quantile. Okay, it's quant over here. It is quant. So quantile. So the value is this. This is 75th percentile. So I'll say this is Q3. I'll have to find Q1 also, because to calculate IQR, I'll just copy this, put it over here with 25. Now let's calculate IQR. IQR is equal to Q3 minus Q1. Now according to the rule, I'll say df if the income is greater than Q3 plus 1.5 times of IQR, then it is outlier, right? Let's run it. These are all the outliers. Let's count how many are there. So shape. So we have 9 outliers. Just count over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Here we have 11. So this method is able to detect 9 outliers out of 11. And these are the outliers which are beyond this particular limit, beyond this limit. So IQR method helps you to detect the outliers and also helps you to understand the weightage of the data. Is it on the lower or on the higher or on the middle? I hope this would have helped you to understand IQR and how to use it. Thank you, everyone.